If you've been active on the internet any year ever, the names Dan and Phil should definitely conjure some sort of memory. Whether it's trauma brought on by comment sections or password-hidden Tumblr blogs, the duo have had an undisputed effect on the internet as a whole. My experience in the fandom was intense, to say the least. I apologize if you knew me from ages 11 through 15. I had a fan page, merchandise, countless nights spent staying up until 5 AM on a school night reading horrendous AO3 fanfiction. The full package, honestly. I've entered my Dan and Phil renaissance recently for like the 3rd time now, so I thought why not just make this giant ass retrospective to just dump all the information that is sitting in my brain permanently. If you somehow do not know who Dan and Phil are, or you just need a recap for your healed brain, they're a British YouTube duo who basically ruled the vlogger space throughout the 2010s. They're known for their comedy and gaming videos, or their batshit crazy fandom depending on what side of the internet you're on. After watching all the Dan and Phil video essays I possibly could digest, I kind of wanted to take the rhetoric away from they have a crazy fandom and they're gay, lol. It's been a wild like 13 years of this shit so far, so I thought why not try and summarize it all in one YouTube video. I've never worked this hard on anything in my life. I had to be as brief as I could without missing out like on all the crazy shit that's happened in the past over a decade. So I'm mainly focusing on like iconic and important fandom information and events rather than just like inside jokes. If you're wanting that kind of thing, just go watch all the top Dan memes videos, you'll find everything there. Before we start the retrospective, just a few little disclaimers. All this information I found is public information, so I would not be posting weird, gross, stalkery shit that cannot be found anywhere because they've had to deal with enough of that already. Please do not kill me if I forgot something. I have only been a fanny for so long and I'm sure there are some little things I missed out on. Just put them down in the comments and I'll be like, okay, thank you. I'm absolutely not tolerating any fanny slander. I am a proud Dan and Phil fan, so if you have any shit to say about them, this is absolutely not the place. Just go to them on Twitter and then pray for your life. I wanted to make this video as kind of a nostalgic fest celebration of two people that have had a genuine impact on my life. So I hope that this video is as entertaining to watch as it was fulfilling for me to make. Also, a quick thank you to a bunch of people for helping me make this. Adorable Phil on Tumblr, their timeline helped a lot. My mutual Subway on Twitter for their whole like archive YouTube, that just helped so much. As well as like the fandom directory, the fandom wiki, just all the Dan and Phil fans. You guys have done God's service. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to my video blog, which I hope you're very excited to be a part of.
We're gonna start this video somewhere, and as everything else does in the world, this will start with Phil Lester. He uploaded his first YouTube video on the 27th of March 2006 using this shitty black and white webcam that he got from a cereal box. So everyone, please thank Cereal for providing us with so much Dan and Phil content. Thank you. His content pre-Dan and Phil was really simple, like 2-minute daily vlog kind of things that were very, very cute. Honestly, Phil was kind of a micro-celebrity in his own right. Alongside with YouTube, he was actually on an episode of the quiz show The Weakest Link in 2007 and was also in the movie Faint Heart and like an insurance commercial in 2008. So like this bitch was everywhere. I mean, if you were living in like England. Hello from Editing Patricia from the future. You're gonna be seeing quite a bit of me because as hard as I tried, there's just some shit that I forgot and I don't feel like leaving it out when I've worked this hard on a video. So you get really good, low quality mini updates from me. I kind of didn't talk about Phil's older content enough because yeah, there was really cute daily vlog, mail opening, that kind of stuff, like uni life, but then a lot of his stuff was very interesting. A lot of just like narrative storytelling and interactive videos and very weird shit as well that I can't put into words. Like if you want to see it, go watch like a Phil 2009 kind of playlist. He's a very creative mind. Also forgot to mention that Phil finished university in 2008. He graduated from York University with a Bachelor of English Language and Linguistics. We love a genius. Important fan lore is that Dan actually successfully surpassed the barriers of a parasocial relationship. He was a fan of Phil's content and then actually became his friend, which none of us will ever do. He stated that he began watching Phil in like 2007 to 2008, and documented proof of their online friendship can be found like everywhere online through like Twitter screenshots, Facebook stuff, Daily Booth stuff. What the fuck even is Daily Booth? Who knows?
Why do you always make cat whiskers on your face?
As Phil continues his little successful YouTube reign, Dan becomes kind of like a Daily Booth macro influencer. It's a dead social media, but from what I could see, like, you'd post like a blog-like kind of thing and then there'd be a picture attached to it. So kind of like Instagram before Instagram. But what do I know? I was literally 5 at the time. Dan gained quite a following and he would always usually post these like thirst traps whenever he reached a follower milestone. Like every 100 followers, it'd be like a very risque photo. This sounds very odd, but I'm just documenting what happened, okay? And I'm absolutely not showing any pictures, you pervs. The Daily Boothing was a common occurrence and kind of like the main documentation of Dan and Phil content within 2009. Towards the end of the year, Dan posted his first proper YouTube video, the infamous Hello Internet in all its webcam glory. As with Daily Booth, he gains an audience on YouTube pretty quickly, which is completely understandable because, like, look how cute he is. Dan and Phil meet in person for the first time 3 days after Hello Internet was uploaded on the 19th of October. And honestly, it's a highly important international holiday for fannies everywhere. There's a few cute photos from the day, just very cute and very endearing. This whole era is filled with like constantly quoted like tweets and just gay yearning stuff that you literally couldn't escape on Tumblr or on Wattpad. Like, every time I hear the words Uma Thurman, I just picture this in my head. I will never escape. The trip eventually delivers us with arguably the most sacred fandom tradition, Phil is Not on Fire. It's a Q&A style video that's laughably random, but also like very iconic to the time it was posted in. It also gave birth to the absolutely iconic cat whiskers branding that haunted me for literal years, and a billion other quotes and clips that were in like every FMV imaginable.
This was the most fun I've ever had. No!
Because there are like a billion different videos and things and trends I could talk about, every time I feel it's relevant, I'm gonna take like a little explainer break to explain like a series or a tradition that was common on their channel. I'm gonna call them Super Fun Explainer Break.
Super Fun Explainer Break. Super Fun Explainer Break.
Our first one comes from mid-2009 with Phil's first Choose Your Own Adventure video called Interactive Space Adventure. He made quite a few videos of this genre over the years. It involved the use of like the old YouTube annotations to like hop from video to video, and your ending would always depend on the choices you made beforehand. He's often followed a theme with a Christmas adventure with Dan uploaded in the end of 2009 to even like secret interactive games at the end of normal videos. Phil eventually utilized this format to make quiz type interactive videos and even an animal beatbox machine, which was very interesting. These videos were eventually phased out by 2013. The links now rendered lost or broken due to YouTube's removal of annotations. Though there are a few completed YouTube playlists out there with like the entire video collection if you're interested enough in finding them. Now, onto the new decade.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I like spaghetti, let's go
2010's content largely remained the same for both Dan and Phil. Post high school, Dan begins a law internship that he documents in the January video, Serious Business. Phil is busy gaining his followers at the same time, ending up reaching 90,000 subscribers, which is fucking awesome.
The first collective that he joined was called Apartment Red. Now, most traces of Apartment Red have been removed from the internet. Obviously there have been re-uploads. But from the limited footage I've seen, I'm pretty sure it's just like a YouTube sketch web show kind of thing. And every time I see comments on videos, it's either yay Phil or this fucking sucks. If you are interested, you can dig for them. They're on YouTube.
Despite their online presence, the two still remained like fairly private in terms of their personal lives on the internet, and especially in terms of their relationship. It was around this time when Phil first privately uploaded the V-Day video onto his channel. I want to talk about this in the most respectful way possible, but I know discourse around this subject has, like, disappeared over the last few years, and some newer people in the fandom might have no idea what is going on. The V-Day video was a Valentine's Day gift from Phil for Dan, as he was in India at the time with his family, so they couldn't be together to celebrate it. I won't talk about the contents of the video because it is extremely personal, which is why discourse over the video was like so very, very taboo and controversial a few years ago. Not too sure if copies are still floating around here or there in current day, but back in the day, like, they were copyrighted instantly by Phil, so I will not be showing any of the footage here out of respect because I'm not insane. It does sound a little cryptic, but we will revisit this topic in the later years to come. The second installment of Phil is Not on Fire was uploaded in May, officially making the series a fun fandom tradition. The duo also posted their amazing Dan videos on Dan's channel this year, which was kind of like a spin-off of Pin-Off Girl. But because it was on Dan's channel, it was like X-rated, risque questions, but they stopped this series after the second one because it kind of flopped. July brought us some really cute content with the YouTuber Jamaica trip. I'm pretty sure this was sponsored by Sony because they were like releasing this new like waterproof camera. This trip gave birth to the first Dan versus Phil kind of video. That would be an idea that was continued on way later. Most of the Jamaica content has been deleted, but there are like little clips and compilations here and there on YouTube. Very easy to find. And the Dan vs. Phil video has been uploaded too, if you guys are curious. End of 2010 was pretty quiet. Dan officially starting university in September of that year, but we will find out how this worked out next year. In terms of content, both Dan and Phil had seemed to found their niches on YouTube by 2011. Phil was still participating in Battlefront, which was a YouTube collective who made videos like campaigning for change, youth empowerment, that kind of thing. And Dan really honed into his anecdotal story time kind of videos, but now a lot of these have been privated. Dan and Phil's first baking video was uploaded in March, where they make British pancakes inspired by the Queen Delia Smith herself. I couldn't get an exact timeline of his withdrawal from uni, but I'm pretty sure like a request was sent in. He first, you know, got the idea within June of 2011, and he had officially dropped out by 2012. Both he and Phil had been making frequent appearances at different YouTuber conventions come like 2010, 2011, specifically Summer in the City in the UK. The two then moved into the first flat with a PH obviously, moving into an apartment in Manchester. A YouTube glitch in September suddenly unprivates all of the previously privately uploaded videos on the website, and this does include the DJ video. Although the two had a quickly growing fan base, the video didn't reach any new heights. It didn't really circulate that much. It was only captured by a few people within the 3 hours it was up on the site. Phil was able to actually contact these fans who had saved the video, and he explained that the video was actually meant as an April Fool's prank for the previous year that they just never ended up using, so it was just private on his channel, and then those people deleted the video, which effectively contained it for a little while. October held the start of one of the duo's first projects together, a side channel called The Super Amazing Project. The Super Amazing Project was a weekly web series where Dan and Phil would talk about many wacky things, such as like internet news. There was some spooky viewer happenings that included like ghost stories, that kind of thing, and also just played some like weird-ass games as well. The show ran for 36 episodes before Dan and Phil stepped down from their hosting duties, and all of the episodes can be found on YouTube. The year came to an end with the third Fiddles on Fire being uploaded in November, starting the tradition of Pin-Off being like an exclusively end-of-year upload. 2011 provided the two with yet another exciting business opportunity when they were approached by BBC Radio 1 to host a Christmas special on their website. This was held on Christmas Day in the UK, fully watchable on like the website, and the live stream just featured like them doing little skits, them playing games, also playing some songs as well, because obviously it was coming from Radio 1. The Christmas special was highly successful, and it kicked off the two's partnership with Radio 1 for years to come.
Super fun explainer break. Super fun explainer break.
I will forever mourn the loss of our precious baking videos, a somewhat constant through the thriving years of Dan and Phil's content. Besides the pancake video, they also uploaded a Christmas cookies video within 2011 as well. These baking videos slowly turned into like seasonal uploads, so there were like a lot of Halloween baking ones, Easter baking ones, the conjoined Halloween video that like broke the internet for a little while, their pastel persona baking video, which I don't want to think about. We also got one with Dan in a bunny costume, so what more could you want, honestly? The year of 2012 used to exist like a scab that the fandom desperately wanted to fall off. It's not really like that anymore, but it was kind of infamous for just being like a total shitstorm, which now living in 2023 with a brain that isn't 13 years old, I can kind of understand why. The year began with the first Day in the Life video, Day in the Life in Manchester. This would be a frequent series on mainly Phil's channel that just showed them like being all domestic, really cute, going into town, going shopping, that kind of shit. This is the only video to really feature Manchester, as they would be moving very soon. The two also attended a lot more conventions this year, actually including VidCon and Playlist Live. Being able to attend these US conventions obviously was a really big feat for them, as their audience had grown so much more internationally. They were like exploding. It established Dan and Phil as proper YouTubers alongside other rising people like Joey Graceffa, Kat Riffick, Jax Films, who were all also in person at VidCon 2012. 2012 also marked the rise of YouNow, where the two would start doing weekly live streams that I miss so much. Still will never be able to find my Dan YouNow notice. All I remember is that I told him I had a nosebleed and then he read out the comment and then I started crying on the toilet. But I don't know what year it was, so it's just lost media. As the two were already in the US for VidCon, I actually decided to spend a week in Vegas for Dan's 21st birthday. After arriving at the hotel, they actually ended up hitting the mega jackpot on one of the machines, like $66,000, which is insane. Before they could like double their win, they were actually dragged off and handcuffed by these two like weird guys in suits. They ended up breaking free and actually stealing a helicopter to go and escape, but they accidentally landed on government properties. Like now they were getting shot at, which was really weird, but thankfully they were saved by a random van full of gymnasts. This story didn't happen, obviously. Dan ended up filming a vlog of their week in Vegas, but it's just never been uploaded, so now that week in Vegas is fandom lost media, unfortunately. And the two made up the previous story in one of their books to just, you know, troll the fans, but the mystery will never be solved, unfortunately. In July, the second flat was born. The two actually decided to move to London in favor of their new work with the BBC, because London was exactly the place for YouTubers in 2012. I don't know why, it just was. Phil's on Fire 4 was also uploaded in September. The end of 2012 unfortunately included the second leaking of the V-Day video. Because both Dan and Phil had exploded in popularity this year, this time around it was a lot harder to get the video contained. The video was shared and saved countless times, with public copies soon being taken down for copyright, but many people were sharing like private links and private copies either through Tumblr, Google Drive, that kind of thing. It's not obvious. This whole situation was a weird fucking invasion of Dan and Phil's privacy that had just skyrocketed through the roof. Dan had actually created a customer service Tumblr blog in 2012 as a way of directly answering fans' questions, but these questions were more like, are you gay? Is Phil gay? Do you guys fuck? And these questions just exploded along with the second leaking of the video. Understandably, Dan reacted very defensively and simply asked people to just leave him and Phil alone, which at the time people really mistook for hostility, which I still find genuinely insane, because these men were just getting their privacy just like ripped from them over and over and over, and people were like, but are you gay? We need to know. But thankfully, we are way past that. Which is why controversy and like talk about the video has quieted down so much over the last few years, and this whole situation is now immortalized through this tweet. After completing season 2 this year, Dan and Phil stepped down from being hosts of the Super Amazing project. December brought us yet another successful Christmas show with Radio 1, effectively wrapping up 2012.
Could you explain the theory behind the whiskers?
I tell you, but we have to kill you.
2013 kind of represents a shift in content in their online personas, as YouTube turns into more like a business than simply just a hobby for the two. After the success of their second Christmas special, Radio 1 actually granted Dan and Phil their own weekly radio show called The Dan and Phil Show. It was a request show that aired on Sundays, I believe. The show took in elements from the Super Amazing project to become like a combination of song request show and YouTuber fun. The show's various segments included fan wars, internet news, Dan vs. Phil, and the showing of music videos as well. Along with the weekly show, Dan and Phil were heavily involved in creating online content for Radio 1. They conducted many an interview at festivals like Big Weekend and Reading. Yes, I have watched their interview with Fall Out Boy way too many times for it to be healthy. Their BBC content mainly just revolved around like celebrities and festivals, but they would do some other stuff for the station itself, especially with Scott Mills, who is a Radio 1 DJ.
Little mini thing I missed, but along with all the other corporate work in 2013, they also did some stuff for the Teen Awards, which I think is different from the Teen Choice Awards, or it's the same thing. I'll let you know. But I think they did like red carpet stuff and they were on stage at one point.
Aside from radio duties, this year was huge for Dan and Phil in terms of like growing their audience. Especially Dan. You ready for this? He hit 1 million subscribers in February, 2 million in July, and then 3 million in December, which is fucking insane. Phil also hit 1 million in July. Like, they were going so quick, it genuinely blew over my mind. Content-wise, nothing changed too much this year. The second day in the life was uploaded, this time in London, and I kid you not, I've probably watched this video 1,000 times. It's burned in right here. And November brought us the 5th Phil is on Fire. November also brought us one of our first fan awards when Phil won the hottest lad for the website Sugarscape's like hottest lad poll. I don't know what it was. But I 1000% agree with the choice, as he should. Dan ended up coming second, and I think they both beat out like 4 members of One Direction. So I was extremely proud. That's an awesome way to end 2013.
Can Phil express an opinion?
Ah yes, the year I started watching Dan and Phil. Oh, how my life has been so perfect ever since. My first video, by the way, was My Greatest Fear. Kind of a slay, honestly. This year was filled with yet even more opportunities and cool shit for them to do, starting with their first ever gig for the Brit Awards. The two hosted the pre-show live stream, which featured them on the red carpet, happily torturing celebrities with all kinds of weird-ass games, but they also provided extra content bits for the Brits YouTube channel as well. Both Dan and Phil, along with Phil's brother Martin, established the company IRL Merch, providing services for production and shipment. The two used this company as like a launching pad to finally launch an official Dan and Phil merch store, the Dan and Phil shop, as opposed to using like third-party sellers like District Lines for their kind of merch. And the logo for the website was actually designed by the fan who designed their first ever combined t-shirt, which I find very, very cute. August brought the final episode for the Dan and Phil show on Radio 1 after a successful 2-season run. But do not fear, fellow fannies, this was not the end of Dan and Phil on the radio, as they were actually appointed the hosts for the Internet Takeover show, which would air on Monday nights. This was the successor to the Dan and Phil show, which actually featured many different creators. Like, there was like Tyler Oakley, Troye Sivan, Zoella, all the besties. Dan and Phil would host every episode that fell on the first Monday of every new month. The Hour show featured like similar segments to the Dan and Phil show, with like internet news and fan music videos, though this show wasn't like really a request show anymore. Time for some more sub milestones. Get ready, guys. Phil hit 2 million subscribers in August, Dan hitting an impressive 4 million just 9 months after he hit 3 million last year. One of the more significant moves from Dan and Phil this year, their gaming channel Dan and Phil Games debuted on the 12th of September, effectively changing their joint content forever, honestly. After releasing a cryptic announcement video, they uploaded their first gaming vid, which was a 13-minute playthrough of the game Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Is that the name? Yeah. And it actually became the fastest growing like channel on YouTube at the time. So I think it's safe to say that no one's lives were the same after this channel was born.
I don't know how I forgot this momentous occasion, but 2014 marked the first year that the two were in YouTube Rewind. Like 2-second appearance in the 2014 one, but they were in the next 2 or 3 years after that. They weren't in very many, surprisingly. But 2015 is the best YouTube Rewind, and I will die on that hill.
Right on schedule, Phil is on Fire 6 was uploaded in early November, along with a festive day in the life, which, oh my god, guys, it's so cute. It is so cute. And honestly, pretty wholesome way to end an extremely busy year.
Super fun explainer break. Super fun explainer break.
I would be mistaken if I didn't touch on the phenomenon that was Dan and Phil Games a little bit more. Joint content was basically never really guaranteed before this, but now there was just like an abundance of videos that came out constantly, and they never really ran out. Besides the renowned Sims 4 playthrough, their popular uploads also included their Undertale series, Five Nights at Freddy's, Spooky Weekend Halloween and Gaming Mess during Christmas, the Impossible Quiz, Google Feud, and the ongoing Dan vs. Phil battle videos, which were eventually won by Phil, with their final gaming video a conclusion to their Sims 4 series, and the announcement of an indefinite hiatus. Dan compared this hiatus to One Direction's, so I'm just going to ignore that information forever.
Don't cry. Craft!
Let me just start by saying 2015 was absolutely fucking insane. I know I keep saying it's insane, but just the things they were able to do, like, every single year, it's just crazy how much they grew. This year started with yet another hosting gig for the Brit Awards, with much of the same content as the same year, just, you know, newer cycle. However, March came in to shake up everyone's world as a weirdly high-budget trailer was dropped on Dan's channel on the 27th of March. This Oscar-worthy trailer was actually the announcement for the duo's combined first book release and first tour announcement, which were appropriately named The Amazing Book is not on fire, and The Amazing Tour is not on fire. I used to clown the old lady with the cat whiskers in the video, but upon a lot of self-reflection, I have realized that she is actually me. Tagging along for the April Fool's fun this year, Dan and Phil launched another iconic project through a brand new YouTube channel, Dan and Phil Crafts. They conquered radio, they had conquered gaming, now it was time to conquer square flakes. Yeah, this channel was the weirdest surprise ever, but fans just kind of took it in their stride, subscribing enough to the April Fool's channel that YouTube actually had to deliver them the 100,000 subscriber button. We'll touch on this channel a little bit later though.
When we were making those square flakes, I never knew that it could lead to this moment.
This year just kept delivering iconic fandom moments, as in April, Dan and Phil made their very first trip to Japan. I'm not too sure why, but this event made time stand still for a moment in the fandom. The trip was affectionately coined Jafan from Dan's caption of this Insta photo, somehow kickstarting the pipeline of the Jafan theory, which was that Dan and Phil got married in Japan. But it was confirmed by Chimbot, so, you know, who's telling the real truth?
Dan and Phil got married in Japan.
The trip was mainly documented through their Day in the Life in Japan video that featured the Japanese YouTubers Mime and Just Duncan, who were like their tour guides at the time. The two also launched a Japan-themed merch drop on their merch site, which I can't even say anything, I bought the damn jumper myself. In a common strike of genius, Phil's 7-second challenge game was officially turned into an app in August. It was previously existing as like a YouTube collab idea, but the game consisted of a challenge that was given to the player, which they had to execute in 7 seconds. Pretty self-explanatory. Fans were also able to suggest challenges to be put inside the app, up until the app was discontinued in 2018. August also brought us another milestone, with Dan reaching 5 million subscribers on the 20th. Whoa! Tadanoff's UK run finally began on the 8th of October, coinciding with the publishing date of Tadanoff. The show was filled with optional audience participation, skits, a giant microwave, a giant papier-mâché dill head, all you could want, honestly. Apparently, the show's synopsis is that Dan and Phil are attempting to fix the internet after Phil microwaves his laptop and it explodes inside the microwave. I don't really remember much from the show because my show was 7 years ago, and I refused to watch the Tadanoff movie because it will just worsen my depression. But the UK tour sold out almost instantly. Eventually they added dates in the US, Australia, and Europe. All jokes aside, Tadanoff was one of the biggest and most successful YouTuber tours, like, period, along with the book being quite enjoyable for a YouTuber book. So I definitely want to make a video like solely focused on Tadanoff in the future. Also, the pre-show playlist fucking slapped. Tadanoff also gave us Dan and Phil's very first single, The Internet Is Here.
Dance break!
Originally performed at the end of every Tadanoff show, they ended up releasing the song as a proper single for charity, wearing their glittery jackets and top hats and all. Also, Phil reached 3 million subscribers in October as well. Oh my god. I vividly remember posting #GetPhil to 3 mil everywhere, and I'm pretty sure I texted it to some people as well. So you know what, I played my part. And of course, this year came to an end with the 7th Phil is on Fire.
What the fuck even is your sexuality?
My oh my, were the boys busy this year, guys. Of course, we begin their 3rd hosting gig for the Brits, but this would be their final time working for the event. April also made us say goodbye to the internet takeover, with Dan and Phil hosting the final broadcast of the show on the 25th. It was understandable that the two were slowly finishing all of their business ties in the UK, as Tadanoff International run was set to happen really soon, so they were going to be traveling everywhere. The American leg of Tadanoff began in April, with the first show taking place on the 22nd in Florida. They traveled all around the country, with the final show taking place in the legendary Dolby Theatre in LA on the 24th of June. This particular show was actually filmed for their soon-to-be-released Tadanoff movie. July blessed us with yet another musical sleigh, this time from Dan himself, as he dropped his Dan is on Fire diss track, poking fun at his sexuality, being a furry, horrible updating schedule. These lyrics will be forever plastered in my brain, I'm sure.
And by that I mean cringe, cause this motherfucker's about to get dragged by his fringe. First things first, your fingers too tall, it's weird, you look.
August was quite a fun month, with Dan hitting a crazy 6 million subscribers on the 10th. August also meant the start of Tadanoff Australia! And I am repping my my 7-year-old merch. Guys, the tour started in Perth on the 14th, my show being in Sydney on the 23rd, and the final show in Brisbane on the 25th. All I remember is staring Dan directly in his eyes, and that's all. They also uploaded the Day in the Life in Australia video on the 21st, which, yes, severely wrecked me. The aforementioned Tadanoff film was part of a released duo of films that were released through YouTube Red RIP on the 5th of October. The full recording of the show in LA was one of the movies, with the other one being kind of like a behind-the-scenes documentary named The Story of Tadanoff. I somehow bought YouTube Red just to watch those two movies, and yes, I cried the entire time through both hour-long films. Somehow finding time this year to release yet another project, Dan and Phil Go Outside was published on the 3rd of November. As their second book, this release was a giant photo book filled with like candids, behind the scenes, anecdotes, stories from like just their time over the years. Upon the book's announcement, fans were also encouraged to make their own DIY covers for the book through this like little website. And you know, there were just so many beautiful ones to choose from. I mean, how could they? With the release of the book also came That Goose, the Dan and Phil online stage events. Taking place in early November, 2 held Q&A style fan events both in London and Los Angeles. If you weren't around for the British Online Creator Awards of 2016, then I feel extremely sorry for you. This cultural change of an award show that was never held after this year placed many awards in Dan and Phil's hands and just created possibly one of the best events of all time. First of all, the suits they wore, I am speechless. I am deceased. They also performed The Internet Is Here live for the first time since being in Australia to actually close off the show, which this is just superstar behavior. They ended up taking home 3 awards that night. Film of the Year for the Tadanoff film, Collaboration of the Year for Phil's On Fire 7, and Mr. Phil Lester himself won Creator of the Year, as he fucking should. It was a truly successful night indeed. The last leg of Tadanoff started in Europe in November, with Dublin on the 21st, and Pin-Off 8 posted like right in the middle. The final performance of Tadanoff was held in Stockholm on the 6th of December, effectively ending this era of Dan and Phil.
Soft and neat. Soft and neat.
2017 started off with a bang when Dan announced that he would be ditching the hair straighteners and embracing his natural curly hair, affectionately named his Hobbit hair. Diners everywhere rejoiced for weeks and partied in the streets, it's true. Phil also reached his preliminary DILF status as he turned 30 this year. He just keeps winning though, as 2 months later, he hit 4 million subscribers. March had Dan and Phil returning to Down Under for the kinda sus Cool for Summerfest, which is where I finally met them for the first time. We were all in our emo glory, as you can see from these beautiful pictures. This was the absolute best moment of my life. But yeah, they've never held this convention since, and honestly from memory, Dan and Phil were like the only notable people there. I don't know what this was, but I sobbed hysterically for 10 minutes afterwards. Oh, and a month after, Flat Part 3 was born, they moved into their second London apartment, which was famously used for videos only. Yes, the bedrooms and rooms featured in their videos were not the beds they actually slept in. And I am very scared of the fannies who predicted this information all the way back in 2017 before we even found out that this was a set apartment. You guys are fucking scary and the FBI is calling you now. The 1st of May brought a great shift that was honestly very scary to me at the time, and that was Dan's rebrand. No longer Dan is on fire, Dan changed all his channel names to Daniel Howell and changed his layout to a more respectable grey landscape. This change was absolutely understandable though, as for someone who posted maybe twice a year, the llamas, Maltesers, placenta branding was way too 2010s and extremely outdated. It also did help distance him from like the childish nature of his older content, especially in terms of what he was going to be uploading in the future. Both Phil and the gaming channel would carry content for most of the year, but that was until early October when Dan posted his Daniel and depression video. A genuinely insightful look into his experience with depression. He detailed how therapy and the acknowledgement of feeling like shit really helped him like tackle his struggles with mental illness. The video also helped solve another fandom mystery that year in March. In an earlier live show, Dan asked the viewers to be like, remind me to tell you about that week in March in a few months' time. And obviously the theories went crazy, but instead of a marriage pact or some weird like gay thing, that week in March was when Dan ran out of antidepressants and kind of turned into a formless blob for a week. The video also helped open the doors for some more opportunities for Dan himself, with Dan partnering with Young Minds UK, an organisation that provides resources for young people struggling with their mental health. But yes, please watch the video if you are struggling, because it honestly helped me sort out what was going on in my head quite a bit, and I'm very proud of him for it. Yet another exciting release, Dan and Phil brought out their first game this year. Truth Bombs was released in mid-October, a little party game that lets you find out how you truly feel about other people through awkward admissions, fun revelations, asking all kinds of weird questions. The two celebrated its release through a collaboration on their channel with their friends Tom Scar and Hazel Hayes. As if things couldn't get any more exciting and overwhelming, some big news came out in early November. Dan and Phil were set to go on another worldwide tour. It was called Interactive Introverts, and instead of being like a clusterfuck of fandom inside jokes, the main premise of this show was giving the people what they want. Announcing 80 shows across 18 countries, this will not only be the duo's biggest collaboration to date, but the biggest international tour done by YouTubers of all time. This tour would begin in 2018. Also, who's surprised? This year ended with Phil's on Fire 9. Thank God for some consistency.
Super fun explainer break. Super fun explainer break.
Guys, please don't hate me for being brief about Dan and Phil Crafts. It's finally here, okay? As much as we would have loved the twice daily uploads that were promised by Dan from the first video, the channel uploaded its final video on April Fool's Day of 2017, putting the channel's grand number of total videos to an impressive 3. The channel was utilized as an April Fool's carry-on joke for the past 3 years, but good things come in threes. First Squareflakes video was quite innocent, but then the underlying story within the next 2 videos end with the 2 sacrificing Phil to Satan. I don't even know, just watch them for yourself. It's quite interesting.
Okay.
However, there was something that was a lot more sinister that came from these videos. The fucking comment section. The first crafts video gave birth to the godforsaken "Don't Cry Craft" meme that every YouTube video comment section was terrorized with. I'm not even joking. I also texted this to every single person in my contacts, along with "Hey buddy, you in London." So you can see what kind of person I was. And still am, to be honest. The second video also provided us with pro tip, and the third one was soft and neat. But I don't think any will ever match the amount of impact that their sister got. Subscribe if you crafted.
What's going on in this room? This is the special time in mine and Phil's life.
I know it sounds a little melancholy, and it's not really as bad as it seems, but 2018 was a year of drastic change for Dan and Phil, both themselves and their content. This was the year that I began to silently fade away from the fandom, just because it was quite sad to watch in real time as a long-time viewer. I'm not too confident on the dates, but around end of 2017, early 2018, both Dan and Phil launched their individual merch shops alongside the combined Dan and Phil shop. It was a clear change in branding, as this was the first time since 2009 that the two were, actively branding themselves as individuals rather than a forever duo act. This was clear in their merch design as well, as Dan's was full of his regular dark brooding skulls, patterns everywhere, and Phil was a little bit more on the colourful side with some animals, some bright patterns, some dogs, all cute shit like that. The first leg of Interactive Introverts began in the UK, with the first show in Brighton at the end of April. The bulk of this year is mainly Interactive Introverts shows, as they did want to get the legs done back to back as quick as possible. After a good month or so, the tour then moved to mainland Europe, which finished up in Sweden in June. Then came the giant USA leg, which finished up in Vancouver mid-August. Then it was the Australian and New Zealand shows, which I regretfully did not attend, and I will regret that every single day of my life. This finished in Sydney on the 3rd of September. Then came the Asian leg of the tour, which concluded the tour as a whole. The final Interactive Introverts show was held in India on the 21st of September. In the midst of all this craziness, Phil had also got rid of the straighteners and embraced his natural quiff and his natural hair color. They honestly, both of them were looking like they couldn't have looked any better. It was so cute. Just like Talanoff, Interactive Introverts was also getting its own movie. This time set to be released on DVD Blu-ray in December of that year. The entire show was filmed once again, with the DVD containing the full show, full director's commentary, and a deleted scene as well. As their show in the state had been actually cancelled previously, the film premiered in Brazil alongside a little fan Q&A and meet and greet session from Dan and Phil in November of 2018. The 10th Phil's on Fire was uploaded on the 7th of December, confirmed by Dan and Phil to be the final one. It marked a significant change as this tradition of 10 years just came to an end all of a sudden, and I don't ever think I've ever grieved something as much. But guys, wait, it gets even worse! The final Dan vs. Phil was uploaded on the 18th of December, which just added salt to the already hurting wound. Even though Phil winning the whole thing did make it a little bit better. Dan and Phil conquering the world era really came to an end on Christmas Eve, where the last Sims and last gaming channel video would be uploaded. The two confirming the channel would begin an indefinite hiatus, as they would like to focus on more individual content for the new year. I literally want to throw up, like, just thinking about it, like, where is Dill? Is Dill dead? Where is Dalian? Where is Nuki? But yeah, it's a sad end to a fucking amazing year, and the perfect canvas for a reset in 2019.
But I'm pretty sure no one that knows me thinks I'm straight.
Something was different in the year as we began 2019 with Dan and Phil. After a traumatizing end to 2018, it was the perfect time for a brand new start. Also to preface, I was not really involved in the fandom during this year, so I will most likely forget something or get something wrong. Please don't kill me, thank you. Phil kickstarted this new era with his video, Time for a Change, which featured a brand new setup and also brand new confidence that was really, just like, really good to see. Though one thing was missing, and it was Dan Howell. Despite being semi-active on Twitter, Dan had basically disappeared from the internet as a whole. His last uploaded video was the Interactive Introverts to a trailer, which was released in June of 2018. This obviously had people concerned, and also going a little crazy, but they wouldn't have to wait that long before.
Spoiler alert, I'm not straight.
One of the best things he's ever made, ever, Basically I'm Gay, is a 45-minute masterpiece filled with queer sadness, queer joy, queer acceptance, all bundled up into one beautiful artwork with some bisexual lighting. I won't summarize the video here, as I really believe you have to watch it for yourself because it is so powerful, and I don't know, it's perfect. I'm just very proud of him for owning his truth and being able to be transparent enough with his audience despite all the weird shit that happened a few years ago. Sorry for the cheesiness, I'm just a Danny at heart, okay? As if Pride Month couldn't get any better, Mr. Lester waited until the very last day to upload his own shorter but sweeter coming out video. Witnessing this in real time was so insane. I'm seriously so proud of both of them and how much they've grown, especially them with their audience as well. Their audience matured as they grew into themselves at the same time. And 2019 was just like the perfect timing to solidify this kind of matured bond that had happened. It was a very sweet time, and I will stop before I get emotional. 2019 wasn't really too eventful after June, with Phil beginning to live stream every so often. These were all uploaded onto his second channel, Less Amazing Phil, but from my knowledge, they're now all unlisted. They did, however, finally get their first pet. After constant begging from their audience to get a dog, adopt a dog, we need a fan dog, they adopted a beta fish, and they named him Norman. But he was beautiful, so it's fine. In a ton of events, Phil casually announced during a stream that he and Dan would be visiting Japan once again. For a normal person, this is normal, but fannies are anything but normal, so Japan Part 2 kind of began. This time, I think it was a lot more toned down with like the content that was being pumped out, though I'm sure the marriage theory was alive and well.
Yay, lesbians! Hello to any lesbians watching.
I obviously do not need to remind anyone of the certain global catastrophe that happened during this year. Thankfully, we had Dan and Phil to keep everything semi-normal. With Dan entering yet another hiatus, Phil basically carried the year with gems like making a birthday cake without a recipe, Animal Crossing videos, floating in a sensory deprivation tank for 3 hours. Both he and Dan actually made a few live stream appearances here and there, Dan partnering with some other mental health organizations to just have these little chats, and Phil doing some charity live streams. Our first glimpse, and I mean absolute glimpse, of joint content was delivered to us in August, with Phil's video detailing attempts of him trying to save a pigeon that had started living on their balcony, which he named Steve, because why not? Along with praise from the RSPCA, this video also delivered us the very first glimpse of Dan in a Phil video since 2018. But it was literally just a glimpse of his head, and it became every Danny's profile picture for like a week, including me. It was a historic time, okay? Oh, and hashtag Amazing Phil Do The Work also trended in August. Important information. Phil held an extra special Amazing Phil quiz on the 5th of December, giving away heaps of cool Amazing Phil merch to the runners-up, and a Nintendo Switch to the actual winner. The theme was perfectly themed around Phil himself, with the real Dan himself facelessly chiming in to try and defend his title of Phil Trash #1. Spoiler alert, he's not Phil Trash #1 anymore. Like a phoenix rising from mysteriously dark ashes, Dan made his return to the spotlight once again after posting a cryptic poem to his Twitter in September. It was then revealed a few days later on the 15th that Dan had actually written his first solo book, called You Will Get Through This Night. With a bougie trailer, an all-new layout, This new era of Dan Howell was genuinely so interesting to watch in real time, and he acted somewhat normal. That was a joke. I'll make sure to touch a little more on the book next year though. The year trotted along with more Phil updates and Dan press here and there, with Phil announcing a new show that would hopefully fill the void that Pinoff left behind. Collaborating with this new streaming app Stereo, Phil announced his brand new weekly show, Phil and Friends. It was an audio show that he would host weekly, having someone sit down with him, like a little special guest, and they'd just play games, have a talk. It's quite cute. The first show was streamed on the 27th of November, with some notable guests including PJ, Phil's brother, Louise Pentland, and of course, Daniel Howell. He joined Phil for the finale on the 30th of December. This would be the first proper upload of joint content since 2018, and it cleansed the souls of fannies worldwide, I'm telling you. Perfectly closing off the shitstorm that was 2020.
If your hentai isn't violently crafted, are you even passionate about it?
That's the thing.
2020 actually ended with another fan stereo show, which was an after party celebrating the end of Phil and Friends. After party was filmed, edited, and uploaded onto Phil's channel. The first official YouTube Dan and Phil collab in 3 years. They announced in this video that the flat would unfortunately be no more. They had in fact built and were waiting to move into the Faust. I'm sorry. Fun fact, an actual Dan and Phil scrapped project was like a joint home renovation show, which we were totally robbed of. I will never forgive YouTube for that ever. Yes, they called this their forever home, and yes, I feel so normal about that. Some sad news out of mid-January. Norman, the beloved beta fish, unfortunately passed away on the 13th. Having just been involved in a 7-hour Fish Fest stream, he lived a wonderful and fulfilling 2 years with the gays, and he will be dearly missed. February delivers us with yet another joint content video, this time with the two playing Cards Against Humanity, but like a little fan-made edition. The two seemed a lot more comfortable and confident in front of a camera now, with things seemingly falling back into place once again. Making a loved comeback, Phil brought back the stereo shows with weekly Dan and Phil episodes, called Lockdown Lads, though the episode did change every week. These episodes absolutely got me through the last year of high school, with them just like happily talking shit and playing games. They're very hilarious, and you can find all of the episodes, if you're interested, re-uploaded onto YouTube. They are audio only, but they work like a really, really cute, really gay podcast. A year after its announcement, You Will Get Through This Night was released on the 18th of May. The lead-up included Dan posting like around 5 excerpts onto his Twitter from the book, with the book split into 3 sections: this night, tomorrow, and the days after. I haven't finished the book myself quite yet, as I'm waiting for like the perfect crisis to really read it through, but it's filmed with extremely helpful and medically backed advice and tips just for dealing with bad mental health days, bad headspaces, that kind of thing. Dan embarked on like a pandemic era press tour with countless live streams and interviews for like web shows, magazines, even breakfast television, which is quite interesting. Finally catching up to Philly, Dan reached his DILF status, 30 years of age, this June. Though arguably 2 years later, he still hasn't rid himself of the baby girl virus. Celebrating with this slay-ass cake as well. Speaking of cakes, can we please give a round of applause for these 3 past Phil birthday cakes, courtesy of Dan? Thank you very much. June also finally allowed the two to move into their new house after being stuck in so-called Boxland during quarantine. And this also included Dan's solo return to YouTube. Partnering with the website itself, he uploaded the little segment video, Gay and Not Proud, as part of their 2021 Pride celebration. It's just included him reminiscing on his old self and everything that's happened since he came out on YouTube.
So this is definitely something I missed while I was kind of inactive in the fan community. Phil did some work with Google UK on their now inactive YouTube channel with a series that was called like Peak Check-ins. From the videos I've seen, I'm pretty sure it was just like advice on like brand management, website management, how to grow an audience through using Google, and then he would, depending on like the subject for the week, he would interview someone that has like an expertise around that subject, and then they'd end the video either by like doing some baking or some other activities. And I don't understand how I've never seen this before. I literally found out about it today. But it granted us some lovely DILF Phil content from 2 years ago. So I need to watch those full videos now.
A sweet end to an almost hectic year. The duo again partnered with YouTube to release an episode of the YouTube original show Hometown Showdown. The episode featured Dan and Phil returning to their hometowns of Winnish and Rawtenstall respectively, participating in different challenges that kind of like call back to their childhood selves and the things they did at that time. The whole thing is very cute and domestic, and it's way too short in my opinion, but it was the perfect way to round off 2021.
Well, thank you for the question, anal slut two-fist.
An essential part of fandom lore, 2022 was actually prophesized as the year Dan and Phil were meant to get married. But Patricia, I hear you say, weren't Dan and Phil married in Japan? Yeah, I don't know how this gay multiverse shit works, because I kind of just go with it. But this theory was first sparked by the absolute legend Crabsticks himself back in 2013.
In 2022, who was best man at Dan and Phil's wedding?
I don't know, why not? This theory even spawned the chart-topping hit, the 2022 song, which was written by the people who did the 2009 song, whose lyrics I will never be able to forget. Yes, I do in fact remember the time when we first met at the train station. But surprise, surprise, to this knowledge, the prophecy was not fulfilled, so we are all now children of divorce. I am fatherless once again. This year does start quietly with, you guessed it, another Dan YouTube hiatus, and Phil absolutely carrying in his newfound expertise area of YouTube shorts. I'm pretty sure it was around this time where the Dan and Phil shop like slowly but surely faded into obscurity. There were like a bunch of final sales phasing out all this stock, which I assume is now empty, as the website itself only redirects you to like the separate merch shops.
Turns out we just ran out of merch. We just sold all the inventory in until we reprint anything and just redirects to our individual stores. For some reason, the website code automatically put this incredibly dramatic date on the homepage, which absolutely looks like a formal death announcement. Jesus.
So let's take a moment to, you know, reminisce on the death of one of our forefathers. Thank you. I meant founding fathers. Guys, I've been filming for like 2 hours now, my brain hurts. In his usual dramatic ass fashion, Dan breaks his silence once again by posting his longest YouTube video ever, Why I Quit YouTube. Clocking in at almost an hour and a half, the whole thing kind of works as like a little expose against YouTube and COVID for basically fucking over all of his plans for the past 2 years, which partially does explain why he was gone for so long as he attempted to work these things out. In the video, Dan actually makes a promise to return to posting regular content for the first time in what, 4 years now? But, you know, just doing it on his terms and doing fun shit he wants to do, which was immediately followed by some earth-shattering news at the end of the video. Dan was going on a solo tour. Dan first performed a 2-night only comedy special at the Soho Theatre in London, which was kind of like the predecessor to the worldwide tour, filled with horny gay jokes and his usual pessimistic wit. The clips uploaded on YouTube from the show really set a high precedent for what the actual tour would be, and I will say, he did not disappoint. As if things couldn't get any more exciting, Dan's return to regular content came in the form of his new web show titled Dystopia Daily, with the first episode being uploaded on the 1st of September. It's a flexible kind of web show that focused on many different aspects, which included things like guest appearances with Phil, Dodie Clark, and Dan's grandma, as well as viewer submissions that are then roasted, hanging out with some animals, and even doing shit a normal YouTuber would do. The first leg of the We're All Doomed tour begins in Ipswich in early September. This tour is kind of themed around like the time of the apocalypse, basically exploring all the reasons why the world is kind of fucked, but also why we should rise against this fuckery and appreciate all the good stuff that's in the world. I'm in no way a great reviewer, as we have seen for the past however long this video is, but the show was a perfect mix of funny and raw and emotional and just Dan in all the best ways. And it had me crying along to All Star by Smash Mouth at the end, so, you know, very successful show indeed.
You're not sign up to get fucking Shrek'd. No.
The UK run ended in London in late September, with Dan beginning the USA leg of the tour in early October. That would have been a really great wholesome way to end the year, but Dan ended up joining TikTok in October, so now I have to deal with that.
Well, here we are, the year of our Satan 2023.
As I'm filming this, it's only the beginning of the year at the moment, and fannies are desperately waiting on both the top Dan memes video and Phil's Q&A, but some fun stuff has still happened. I met Dan in January. Craziest experience of my life. That bitch is way too tall, but god, that show is just so good. The European leg of the tour is set to start in February 11th, but they are having like quite a few issues with cancelling shows and adding shows, so hopefully everything goes by smoothly for the European fannies, as it's the last leg of We're All Doomed, and then this era will be closed, and I'm very excited and scared and gonna shit myself over the possibilities of the future. Also, I'm pretty sure they filmed the Sydney show. So if there's no film announcement next month with some audience shots of me crying, I will write it. But I'm sure this year will be filled with so much more fun and surprises and excitement and hopefully some more Phil content. Where is he? But I'm manifesting lots of love and happiness for them. I love you guys. I realized I forgot to write an outro for this video. If you've stuck around through me rambling this whole time about this whole nonsense, then thank you so much. This was very healing for me to kind of reminisce on all the times that, you know, all the crazy shit I've been through with this fandom, especially with a lot of the friends that I've made through interacting with Dan and Phil. Cringe culture is dead because Dan and Phil are fucking awesome, and if you think otherwise, then I'm sorry. Get better soon. I don't know if long form content is going to be something I really want to do, especially because uni starts soon. Ugh. But I do want to kind of get back into being creative because I do need an outlet. So if there's any more early YouTubers, emo trinity even content you guys want to see, give me some ideas and I'll definitely think about doing it. Because I kind of want to just talk about Ryan Ross for an hour, but we'll see how that goes. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Don't expect a new video anytime soon unless, you know, you can go pressure me on Twitter for it if you want to. Everything important will be down there. Thank you guys.